It's a phenomenal victory for VG.R coming off the back of a 0-4 group stage, but even more impressively, coming from behind in the game as well.
Yeah, this is a game that EG is playing EG DotA. When they're at their best, they're a team that is very controlled. They win by passive resource accumulation. They get favorable trades, and for the first 25 minutes of this match, they were doing exactly that. They were up about 5K in gold. They were tied 15 to 15 kills. Over the next 15 minutes, outkilled by VG.R 21-4 and over 17K in net worth. This is VG.R playing like they did at StarLadder. Phenomenal mid-game execution.
So what's changed, Winter?
I mean, the team play though. I don't think EG like in team fights.
Let's start at the beginning. The draft. In terms of the draft, did EG get outdrafted?
We all were in agreement that EG had the easier draft to execute, and we thought that they would come ahead with the early game with the Darkseer plus X, but they didn't actually even were that ahead. They were slightly ahead, but not as much as I would hope for with their lineup. And then in the team fights, their coordination was really, really bad. There wasn't once we saw a vacuum into X call, and for Vici, there were so many good coordinations with the Slada, the Phoenix. They both stun and disable, and he drops the egg, he protects the egg. Like, the team play was there for Vici, but the team play wasn't there for EG.
Okay, Black, do you agree it wasn't an outdraft? It was a comeback by VG.R?
I think if anything, EG had a much better draft. And what really stood out for me was Darkseer died in a very weird way. First blood, he just ran in and died. And I think that really put a stop to their aggression on the offlane, because that means the Axe and Darkseer can't really pressure the Lifestealer anymore, which then resulted into the Lifestealer having complete free farm. They had to completely swap over the strategy, and I think that was ultimately what lost them the game.
But it also came at a huge cost, because the Dragon Knight, he actually took his stun to secure the first blood, which actually resulted in his lane getting, he was totally done in his lane.
I mean, that's partly why I've asked about the outdraft, because if you look at it on paper, that's a Slada, a Lifestealer, and a DK.
I mean, it was the fact that I understand where you're coming from, Paul. Like, they have very good heroes that are good in this meta, very strong mid-game, but they are actually very weak in the early game. That was why we all suspected that their early game would get crushed by EG, because EG had the much more aggressive laning phase.
Which in part it kind of did, but maybe just not enough.
Well, but that's what we're talking about, right, in the draft, that you have this just amazing, phenomenally talented, dynamic young player in Sumail, and he's going to win his lane. And he won his lane. They arguably won all three lanes.
He destroyed his lane.
I mean, look at this. He takes all three EG players with 35 CS extremely early in the game. But what they used to be able to do is jump on that Sumail early laning advantage and just leverage the hell out of it and take complete control of the game. They just never were able to do that. The net worth graph just plateaus.
And on top of that, they would not let go of the advantage. This game, it was just like all VG.R at one point.
It's also the psychology part of the game. If you look closely at the game just now, Paul, like the Juggernaut played by RE 2000, he went for SNY, Facebook SNY. And after SNY, he went back for a Battle Fury. It shows you the psychology, oh, we're actually not winning anymore. I need to farm, which is not supposed to be what they're doing. So it's like a huge tell there's something wrong with the team.
Is that a confidence thing? They got to a point where they think, we're doing all right, let's not go too far, let's just make sure we're okay.
It's a confidence thing, I agree, but it's also the fact that the way they are playing, they are not sure what to do.
And they're not in sync with their ideas. Like, some players went for early game, mid game item aggressions, and then that's what AOI did.
But look at these fights. The most telling thing to me about this fight, Darkseer wall is off cooldown the entire time. And there's, I believe this is the engagement, we're on the tail end of the engagement. So there you go, there's the back wall, but they're very, very late in these fights. And I mean, you see Bulba in a couple of these different fights, he's getting kills with his wall illusions on the tail end. But that's also telling you how late those walls are coming in.
That's not supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is the vacuum with the call. They had to do that, but every time like Fear is going in, he sees an opportunity, he jumps, and there's no coordination, and Bulba sees a good chance, I get a 3-man vacuum, 4-man vacuum, whatever, but the Axe is not there to follow up. There was no communication.
What would be even easier though is even a vacuum silence, and it's really easy to pull off because the silence AoE is huge. They didn't even do that. It was just like, I'm going to use my spells, okay, then I use my spells next, and then I guess 5 seconds later I'll use my spells. There was just no coordination. Like, it just didn't seem like they were a team.
Once again there, I mean, the back wall combination, I mean, it's hitting a lot of heroes, you're getting a lot of those illusions, but it's happening toward the tail end of those fights.
So what do we think? Do we think lack of communication? Do we think lack of cohesion inside the booth? Do we think lack of...
I think it's got to be down to communication.
Is it distractions? Is it outside the booth? Is it stuff that's going on outside that we don't know about?
I mean, I think that's speculation, right? But
Well, sure, and I am speculating.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out how such a great team and a great set of players is just not playing the way that we were expecting them to play.
I mean, at the end of the day, the great teams, you can say this about all of them, the formula for winning is simple. And EG's formula for winning is really easy. They're going to outplay you in lanes, and then they're going to have enough of a lead going into the mid-game that they're going to leverage. They're going to at least play you even in these fights, and they're going to win the trades.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not what's happening in the game is the problem. It's what's happening outside the game, which we don't know. Like, what's causing the team to not work together?
Yeah.
That is the biggest question.
I mean, someone said to me, gave me a really good question actually when we were in the group stage, and they said, "Wow, Evil Geniuses, they're still playing well at Dota." This is a non-Dota friend. They're playing really well at Dota still. They're still doing well. I find that amazing after they won $6 million last year. Why would you carry on? And I thought, well, that's an interesting question from an outside observation, and it questions the motivation. But knowing Peter, you've got to think, no, he wants to win every tournament he goes to, and I know that he kind of builds that in the rest of his team, so it can't be that.
I've always felt that he's a captain that doesn't give up easily, but in this event, like
and then you have Fear in the team as well, who is someone who is renowned for never
Alan
giving
talked
up.
about it earlier. There was a game where they called GG at 17 minutes.
Yeah, that was the MVP game.
Yeah,
right?
that doesn't happen unless there's like some internal
Fundamental
disagreement.
issue.
There's like some internal disagreement. We don't know what it is, or what it might have been, or what's the cause of it, but it's definitely there, and it showed in this game. They had a really big lead, and they usually don't throw it away. And in this game, they were just like doing it over and over and over. They had like 3 tries, and 3 times they did the same mistakes.
Okay, let's talk a positive vibe from this, because it's come from VG Gaming Reborn. MVP of the game.
I think you have to give it to ZYF, or End as he's going by in game these days. This was the other half of their winning formula at Starlighter. They had this great mid-game execution to overcome early. I mean, it's almost a strat for this team now. You lose the early game and you out-execute in the mid-game, but you just wait until ZYF or End can just get huge. And that's what he did in this game. I mean, he wasn't doing anything to the Death Prophet in their first couple of team fights, but all of a sudden, he's Lifestealer has Echo Saber, he's got Desolator, he's got AC and a Blink Dagger. They have multiple ways to get into fights, and the Death Prophet can't survive.
Well, he has M damage as well, don't forget that.
Exactly.
So his job was basically very easy when it come mid-game.
Yeah.
Like, we were never worried about their mid-game at all. It was all about their early game.
Early game.
We were thinking they were so greedy.
Great.
They were so greedy in the early game. Like, we don't think that they would have been able to survive the early game onslaught from EG.
Okay, I have a serious question for all 3 of you. What are the teams doing to the panelists at this major? Because they're destroying your predictions. That's 3 out of 3 now on this panel today. You all went for EG. I think it's the safer bet, and yet VG.R have won. So what is it?
I mean, we started draft.
Is it because the teams are so blooming close now and you just can't pick between them?
It's you when you're trying to make these predictions, right? You're trying to tell a story of the game. And in order to tell that story of the game, you look at the way these teams have been playing and you look at what they've been doing.
Yep.
But a team like VG.R, we know that they're capable of playing that way. But all of a sudden they go 2 months and they don't show it.
Yeah.
Now, on the big stage, in this arena in front of these fans.
Do you know what it is?
Comes back.
They just needed a crowd. They just needed a crowd. Maybe that's something Sir Action Slacks can ask, because he is currently down on the main stage with FY